Welcome, everyone. We are delighted that you are here for the College of Liberal Arts information session. We're going to wait a couple more minutes to give folks a chance to join in. But in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind, in the chat box, you can feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you know of any majors that you're possibly interested in, we'd love to know more about that. So again, we'll get started in a couple minutes. And in the meantime, in the chat box, if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from and what majors you might be interested in.
Wow, we have a lot of people interested in psychology joining us.
I think we have, I think over 90% of those who signed up for today are tuning in from Texas, but bonus points if you're tuning in from Ohio. That's where I'm currently located for this week, working remotely. That is where home is for me, but looking forward to getting back to Austin this weekend.
Izzy's from Austin. Got some local Austinites here too.
Okay.
Like
Sydney
local
said
Austinites are few and far between around here.
Yeah.
A lot of transplants.
See somebody from Michigan, so I just spent some time in the Detroit area the other day.
Sydney, where are you on the hand in Michigan? My husband's from there and he's from the thumb. Looks like Maximilian already knows about our IRG major, a very popular one. Fun fact about IRG, it was actually started by students. In fact, those on Liberal Arts Council put together a petition to start that major about 15 years ago, and now it's one of the most popular ones.
So you learn something new every day. I had no idea. So, all right. Well, I think that's mostly everybody in the waiting room. So, and we are a few minutes after 3:30. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon or late morning, depending on where you're tuned. Well, it looks like most of you are from Texas right now. I'm Scott Brown. I'm Associate Director of Strategic Initiatives in the College of Liberal Arts, and I work closely with our academic advising team, our career services team, and our student success team. And we are very fortunate that I'm happy to have a co-host with me this afternoon. So Tatum, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, everybody. My name is Tatum Oldham, and I'm the Director at Liberal Arts Career Services. Thanks for joining us today.
So just a couple house rules, if you will. We like seeing faces, and we know it's not always possible for you to have your cameras on. But if you are able to have your camera on and you would like to, we welcome you to show your faces. We like talking to humans, even if it is through Zoom, but we understand if you can't have your camera on. Please keep yourself on mute. There will be time at the end of the presentation to ask questions, which you'll be able to do either through the chat feature, or you can unmute yourself and ask those questions. And of course, hopefully we don't have to tell you now after over a year of online work, but please remember to keep proper etiquette in the chat. And this session is being recorded. A general overview, so what you can expect from our presentation today. We're going to give you some background on the College of Liberal Arts. So when you hear us say COLA, that's what we mean, College of Liberal Arts. We'll talk about the degree programs. There's a lot that goes on outside of the classroom. So those co-curricular activities that are important also important to your college experience. We'll discuss those in addition to campus resources, and again, have time for questions at the end. So, sound good? All right, see a couple head nods.
So why liberal arts? Of course, we're a little bit biased, but I find that liberal arts is a fantastic choice for those of you who have a lot of different interests and maybe have a hard time narrowing those interests down. If that applies to anybody, give me a thumbs up. So we've got over 40 different majors in our college. We're the largest college on campus with over 10,000 students. And, we have everything from economics to social sciences to humanities and more, as well as some great honors programs that we'll talk about. And so when you're thinking about college, first off, you're probably 16, 17 years old. We are not expecting you to come in knowing exactly what you want to do with the rest of your life. And one of the important things to note about careers is that, careers change over the years. And in fact, it's very likely that the job that you have 20 years from now doesn't even exist right now. So we would prefer that you prepare for the future by focusing on something that is really going to build the skills that are going to help you be able to apply to a lot of different fields. So liberal arts majors work in business, they work in government, they work in nonprofits. And in general, I would say liberal arts majors really like to make a positive impact on the world, and they love learning for learning's sake. So rather than focus on a really niche career that you might change your mind about later, we like the liberal arts because they're building the skills that employers are really looking for when you graduate in terms of critical thinking skills, writing skills, working as a team, foreign language skills. And so you're going to build a lot of those skills as liberal arts majors that you can apply to a lot of different sectors of the workforce.
And like Tatum had mentioned, we are one of the largest colleges at the university. The College of Natural Sciences, I think, edges us out by maybe 2,000 students. I think they have around 12,000 students in their college. We in COLA have around 10,000 students, and then the third college, I think, isn't anywhere close to us. But we are the college with the most degree offerings. And I've often heard our college as the intellectual hub of the university, because a lot of the core requirements that all UT students are required to take, many of those are offered in the College of Liberal Arts. So you can see we have over 40 majors, which we'll get into in the next slide, that you can choose from. We have world-renowned faculty who are well-respected and just powerhouses in their own disciplines that you get to learn alongside with, and several support staff to help you along the way. We also have over 130,000 alumni, which will be great for you all for connections, whether that's job shadowing or internships, or when you're ready to take the plunge into searching for a job, full-time position. Sometimes those connections can come in handy. So along with majors, you'll also have the opportunity to pursue a minor or a certificate that could be in a separate field of interest.
And so just to give you a sense, I think I've heard that a third of the majors at UT are in the College of Liberal Arts. So those 40 majors that Scott mentioned, this is a list of things that you can major in at UT within the College of Liberal Arts. And some of these are relatively new. Our race, indigeneity and migration major is brand new, starting last year. We have a lot of interdisciplinary majors that you may not have thought of before. So especially things like health and society, we have a lot of pre-med majors in that track. And also our sustainability program, that's a relatively new major. For those of you who are interested in helping the environment, that's become a very popular one very quickly as well. And then we also have the classics like English, history that are really, building those skills that you develop in humanities coursework that employers are looking for.
And so with minors and certificates, nearly all liberal arts majors require a minor, if not double majoring. So if you are double majoring, then you would not be required to have a minor. As it stands now, and Tatum, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right now you can only have one minor per one major. So
That's right.
you can't have one major and two minors, for example. So it's a 1-to-1, one major, one minor. We also offer certificates, which just like a minor are recognized on your transcript. So you might have an interest, or maybe you're thinking of pursuing medicine, after you graduate with your bachelor's degree. Well, there's a certificate for Spanish for medical professions, for example, or creative writing. If you have an interest in creative writing, but you wanted to pursue something else for your major, you can pursue something a little bit more in depth rather than just taking like one course or one elective. So you do have the option to supplement your major with one minor and a certificate.
And, having that minor is a great way to diversify your interests. And like I said, liberal arts majors tend to have so many different interests. So we love it when your major and your minor don't really match up, if there's something, very different, and you get, two very different perspectives from those courses. Two that are popular amongst our students in particular, the business minor is very popular. We have a lot of liberal arts majors who end up working in business. And then another one that's newer that's become very popular is elements of computing, which is similar to getting a minor in computer science. And of course, there are a lot of employers out there that are looking for coding skills as well. And I find that your generation, many of you have been coding since you were in third grade. So, you can definitely apply those on the job as well. And so when it comes to degree requirements, the core curriculum that's going to be uniform across all of the university, all undergrads, it's going to be 42 hours, but then there's some specific coursework if you're in the college liberal arts. So for example, foreign language that we'll talk about in a minute is very important to the liberal arts curriculum, something that's going to be required for you. And then we have some additional social science and humanities requirements as well. The major would require anywhere between 24 and 45 hours, and then your minor or certificate that can be inside or outside of liberal arts would be anywhere from 15 to 21 hours, depending on your degree program. And then, of course, we save some fun electives. We have so many great electives at UT that you can take. People take things like ballroom dancing or personal finance, lots of things that you may not have had an opportunity to take in high school, depending on where you went. They're just fun. And, as of course, we want your college career to prepare you for the future, but we also want to make sure that you're enjoying your time and having a great college experience. So electives are a fun way to explore as well. So that total ends up being 120 hours.
And with the foreign language requirement, so as you can see, we highlighted it, bolded it at the top. As a student in COLA, you would be required to achieve intermediate proficiency in a foreign language as part of your degree requirement. So the number of semesters and total number of credits required to complete this really does vary by language. And so it's not the same across all of these languages that you see on your screen. It really depends, based on like what language it is that you are pursuing. You can see we have a whole list of them, over 30 languages, including those that are considered to be essential languages in the business sector. So like Mandarin, Spanish, German, and Portuguese, and Arabic. You do not have to continue, so whatever you're studying in high school, you do not have to continue that language in college. So a lot of our students might study Spanish in high school, but maybe French wasn't offered, but they really have an interest in learning French. So they decide once they enroll at UT, they will pursue intermediate proficiency in French. So we get that question a lot from prospective students is, do I have to continue what I'm studying in high school into college? And no, you don't.
And we're so lucky to have over 30 different foreign languages to choose from, Scott. In particular, our Portuguese and our Arabic programs are both flagship programs that provide funding for you to spend your 5th year going abroad and having an intensive language experience, learning those firsthand. So definitely very lucky that we have such a broad exposure to a variety of different languages. Looks like we have a question in the chat about that. Is there a way to test out of the foreign language requirement if you already know one? Yes, there are tests you can take.
Yeah, and I was just about to add too, so thank you for that question, that you would consult with our student testing services, and you would take an exam to determine, if you're able to test out of that language. So, or even test out of an introductory course if you think you have already a certain level of proficiency in that language.
And to Izzy's question, my understanding is you can take more than one language. However, you have to take a certain number within the same language. So for example, when I was an undergrad at UT, I had to take, I think, 16 hours in the same language, and I took Spanish. But I've known some students who also took, ASL while learning Japanese. So they're depending on what you're majoring in and how much time you have carved out for electives, it may be possible to do that.
Yeah, and that could be their electives, right? They could possibly take more, yeah.
About our honors program. So we have a few different options available. Some of you may have heard of the Plan 2 honors program. That is one. Plan 2 is actually your major. You can couple that with another major if you'd like, but you're not required to. Plan 2 is really exciting because it's a very close-knit, small community within a large university, and they have some fantastic faculty that are teaching very small classes. And then liberal arts honors, it's not actually it's not a major, it's something you do in addition to your major. And I actually teach in that department, and they have a lot of very cool civic engagement classes built into the curriculum. So, and we also have some professional development courses that are required. So for example, all of the liberal arts honors first years are required to take a professional development course with me for academic credit. So both of those are really good ways to get sort of the best of both worlds, to have like a really close-knit community at UT, but also have all the great things that come along from going to a very large flagship university. And our humanities program is unusual in that you really get to make your own major. And so that I find works best for people that have a very unique specific interest, and they're able to sort of have a capstone project where they're really focused on that particular issue. And then they can take a variety of different courses that match up with that specific research interest.
There was a question in the chat. Does this honors program work the same as the College of Natural Sciences?
I'm not entirely sure, Izzy, how the natural sciences honors program works, but I can tell you that Plan 2 you have to be admitted to when you apply to college. So if you're interested in that one, you would want to apply to Plan 2 at the same time that you were applying to UT.
Yeah.
What is Plan 2 honors? I know it's a funny name, right? There's a joke. There used to be a bumper sticker when I was an undergrad that said, I don't have a major yet, but I plan to. But even though the name sounds kind of funny, a lot of employers, it's a very widely known program, and a lot of the alumni from that program go on to do all sorts of things, like CEOs of companies, that sort of thing. So it's really an in-demand major. A lot of employers seek that one out specifically, and a lot of those students also go to law school or med school. So definitely a strong program as well.
Yeah.
What do you learn in Plan 2?
It's interdisciplinary. Yeah. It's an interdisciplinary
yeah.
program. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put some information about Plan 2 in the chat.
All right. So we're going to move on to 360 connections. So you can imagine that when you come to UT, when you come to Austin, it can be a large, it's a large campus, thousands of students. But what we want to do is help you in that transition from high school to college, and really create a smaller environment for you, especially in that first semester, that second semester, where you can see familiar faces, almost every day, certainly weekly, and just create a smaller community for you to help you adjust. So that's what these 360 connections are designed to do. It's your first year community of support, and they manifest in different ways. So if you are, some students are in an LA 101 class, which is a full semester course that meets once a week for an hour, and you're with the same students every week, same instructor. You're talking about how do you interpret an interactive degree audit so you can keep track of all your classes and how they're corresponding to the degree requirements. We coach students on how to reach out to faculty, because sometimes that can be scary and daunting. And so we want to help you develop those skills that will set you up for success, not just in that first semester, but that you can carry with you for the rest of your time in college. We have first year interest groups, honor societies. All of these contribute to the 360 connections. And there's smaller cohorts of students of around 20 in a group. Like I said, they meet routinely, so typically once a week. Usually there's a staff member involved, sometimes faculty are involved, or peer mentors. So sophomores, juniors, or seniors who are once in that type of 360 connection experience, who are looking to gain leadership skills. And topics really do range from leadership to spirit and traditions, ethics and integrity. So really it's an opportunity for you to take part in something that interests you in a smaller environment your first year.
And so when it comes to co-curricular activities, um, there's so much that you learn inside the classroom, but it's also really important that you're learning outside of the classroom. And so there are a variety of different ways to do that, right? So you can study abroad, and we have so many different study abroad opportunities, more than 400 approved programs, and that's in over 100 different countries. And because liberal arts majors are required to take foreign language courses, it's a great way for you to get those requirements done by actually learning directly from native speakers and having an experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life. When it comes to undergraduate research, one thing that I wanted to point out, I didn't even really understand what undergraduate research was when I was an undergraduate. Anybody here know what an R1 is? I'm not expecting you to, but there might be somebody here. Yeah. So R1 stands for sort of a first tier research university. And so what we mean by that is UT is considered an R1 because most of the faculty that you'll be taking courses from aren't just teaching, they're also pursuing their own research over things that they get extremely excited about within their discipline. And so as undergraduates, you have the opportunity to help them with their research. And doing that can help set you up for applying to grad school in the future, PhD programs. It can also just be really fun and fascinating and a good way to get to know faculty members. And so I wanted to point out that we have this really cool resource called Eureka at UT that is a database where you can sort of get a sense of what sorts of things faculty are researching, and they'll post that they're looking for undergraduates to help them. And so I just wanted to link, this is kind of a long URL, but I just wanted to link this in the chat because, oh, thank you, Jessica, because this is the ones that I was looking at that we're specifically recruiting from the College Liberal Arts right now. And so you can see on there that they're doing all sorts of research on things from academic growth and bilingual middle schoolers to executive function and academic performance in children and adolescents, children's imagination. We've got some people that are interested in psychology on here. A lot of the psychology professors are doing some really fascinating research and need help from undergraduates with that research project, those projects that they're doing. Of course, coming from career services, I am a huge proponent of internships. I find that some of my first year students already have internship experience, which is incredible. That's certainly not a requirement, but the more you can do to learn before you go out into the real world and start working full time, the more experience you can get on your resume, the better. And part of that is what we call reality testing. So has anybody here ever worked a part-time job or an internship, and at the end of the summer, what you really learned from that experience was that you didn't want to work in that? Could I get a thumbs up if you're like, yeah, turns out I hated working at that law firm or whatever? Thank you. I see some thumbs up. So that's what we call reality testing, because I would much rather you learn that you hated working in a law firm when you were 17 than go to law school and find that out after you've invested in law school, right? And so the more you can try out different fields that you're thinking about, the better. And we can certainly help you find internships and get academic credit for those while you're here at UT. And then so many opportunities for leadership experience. We actually have over 1,000 different student organizations at UT. And the good news about that is there's something for everyone. And it also really helps make UT a place where you feel like you belong, and you can find your group of people that you really can be yourself with and can help you through the college experience. So getting involved on campus in some sort of leadership role or student organization is a great way to get some great experience and also to make friends and become part of the community.
So we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of these. So with leadership, like Tatum said, there's a plethora of leadership opportunities at UT, especially through registered student organizations, which there are hundreds of that really reflect students' academic, cultural, social needs, athletics, so through intramurals. But we also offer leadership opportunities within COLA. So here are a few examples of our liberal arts students. We have the Liberal Arts Council, which is the official student voice and governing body of COLA. So the university has an undergraduate student government, but then each of the colleges might have their own governing body as well. And so this is a great opportunity. I think this is popular for a lot of our government majors, but it's not exclusively for them. So if you're interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, or wanting to make recommendations to staff like Tatum and I, on ways to enhance the student experience. There are different subcommittees that you can get involved in and represent the voice of the COLA student body. Texas Phanos is another organization, and typically they do presentations like this, but right now they are on summer break, so they are off doing internships and working part-time perhaps, or full-time, maybe just unwinding because that was a challenging year and they just need a reset, and that is okay. And then we also have another example of the Liberal Arts Honors Diversity Action Committee. So
it's pronounced LADOC. I learned
LADOC.
this year. We were helping them coordinate some panels with some alumni, alumni working in various fields, and I was like, oh, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. It's LADOC. So.
Yeah. And I did want to address Izzy's question from above. I meant to do that before this slide about the plan two. Can you still get in? I don't know if that was addressed or not. Can you still attend the School of Liberal Arts if you don't get into Plan 2? And so the answer is yes. When you apply, you can select up to 2 or 3 majors. So if you have an interest, if you think that you want to pursue Plan 2, we recommend that you select that on your application in addition to maybe 1 or 2 other majors. And if you're not admitted into Plan 2, then hopefully you'll be admitted into one of the other programs that you selected.
So I would say absolutely go for Plan 2 and then something else than the College of Liberal Arts too.
Yeah.
So when it comes to studying abroad, I'm realizing that I've covered a lot of this already, but honestly, if I had one regret from my time at UT, it would be that I didn't study abroad because I was worried about how I'd have to take out more student loans in order to cover it. One thing that I want to point out is that we have this great database that I can put in the chat where you can search for different study abroad programs by region. And there's also a lot of scholarships available depending on where you're going. So if you're thinking to yourself, I would love to study abroad, but I don't think I could afford that financially, please don't rule it out until you've talked with them about potential scholarships that could help make that possible. Because I really do think that that's an experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And it also builds some really good language skills, but also looks good on your applications when you're applying for jobs. I think there's a lot of good things that come from that. Scott, did you do a study abroad when you were in college?
I did. I went from Toledo, Ohio to Toledo, Spain, and stayed there for a summer with the host family. And then I stayed back for a couple of weeks and traveled around Europe. And I actually just reconnected with one of my study abroad friends over last weekend. And hands down, that was the most defining experience of my, I see Cape Town.
Ooh, Jessica went to Cape Town.
Yeah,
fantastic.
all right. Yeah. But yeah, that is one of the things that I reflect on the most, being able to take an art class in Toledo and then go on a day trip to Madrid and, go to El Prado and a couple of the other museums and it's just talk about experiential and hands-on learning. There's nothing else comparable to that. So if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend it. Yeah, and if you are in international relations and global studies, you will be required. Yeah. So with undergraduate research, so you are already familiar with Eureka, the database. I guess the only thing that I will add here is that, don't be afraid to reach out to your academic advisor or Tatum and her team in career services, or current students who have already done research, to ask them what was that first step that you took? How do you get started in undergraduate research? Because to me, that's the biggest first step, right? that's the biggest moment, is taking that first step. And so how do you express your interest to your faculty I'm a first year or a second year at UT, but I'm interested in research, and there's this person who's published books and research articles, and so how do I communicate that interest to those faculty? And so we're here to help you and to guide you and to coach you, and how to draft an email, how to talk to faculty in office hours, and how to express your interest. Because that's part of learning and development, right? So, and there's so many benefits to undergraduate research, and it's not just for students who think they want to go on to graduate school. Thinking of the skills that you'll develop through research, such as critical inquiry, learning how to write differently for a paper that might be due in one of your classes, but learning how to write for a manuscript or scientific writing. Communication, sometimes you have the opportunity to present at research symposiums, and being able to communicate what you're doing to somebody who has no idea what your field of interest is. And so that takes a special skill. And so there are a lot of skills that you can develop through research that you can put on your resume that will still set you up for success, even in the job search, outside of graduate school. So it's not just for those who do want to go on to graduate school, although that does help. Yeah, so that's all. Anything else you wanted to add to research, Tatum?
I would just say that absolutely, as Scott said, we can help you draft an email to a faculty member that you're excited to work with. However, if you go to office hours and faculty love to talk about their research. So once you get them started, you're like, hey, tell me about the research you're doing. They will talk your ear off. They'll be thrilled. So
Yeah.
don't be intimidated. They love to talk about themselves and what they're doing, for sure.
Or if you happen to read one of their latest publications and you bring that up, even better.
And so according to a recent study that we did, or a recent survey, about 70% of our liberal arts students ended up having at least one internship by the time they finished college. So that's definitely not a requirement, but it is especially important that you get some relevant experience on your resume. So some internships are going to be paid, some are going to be unpaid. This year, we actually had a lot of virtual internships. I just spoke with an employer yesterday who is really excited to do another virtual internship program for us this fall. So that's really opened up a lot of opportunities. For example, the State Department now has a bunch of virtual internships so that you don't have to be living in DC or abroad to take part in their internship program. You can actually do that from UT, which is exciting. And definitely, our office, we love to help you find internships and navigate the search process. We can help you with your resumes, writing cover letters, preparing for interviews, all of that when it comes to internships or full-time jobs.
And some of the resources that we offer, Tatum, I won't steal your thunder on career services if you wanted to give your pitch there, but we do have a few offices here to support you. We have the You Teach program. So there are different pathways to becoming a secondary education teacher. But through liberal arts, we have the You Teach program. And this is a 4-semester program where each semester requires a field placement at one of our local schools. And the end result, or the outcome after going through the You Teach program, is that you will be certified and eligible to teach secondary education in a liberal arts field, like history, for example. So that's one of the more popular programs in our college for those who are looking to become secondary educators. And then we also have the pre-health advising office. And then you see the gavel down in the bottom right. We have pre-law, which is actually under Tatum's area. But with pre-health, that office is located in the College of Natural Sciences. And although it's located in CNS, and yeah, Tatum just dropped a link there for health professions, although it's located in a different college, they provide services to all UT students, including COLA students, because we know that if you want to go on to become a veterinarian or a medical doctor, you don't have to just major in biology or chemistry or one of the natural sciences. You could be an English major, you could be a philosophy major, you could be a psychology major, those majors that are in our college. The important thing is, though, that you're completing the degree requirements for your COLA program and completing the prerequisites for medical school. And so what your academic advisor and what the pre-health advising office will do is help you create this plan so you can make sure that you work in both of those requirements, your degree program and the prerequisites for medical school. So don't think that you need to major in a CNS program in order to go on to one of the health professions. And then Tatum, do you want to cover LACs and pre-law?
Yeah, sure. And I see Izzy's question about health and society. So I can drop the some more information about that in the chat, Izzy. But essentially, health and society, it focuses it's sort of like sociology mixed with health. So a lot of it's about things like health inequalities between different demographics, things like Black women are much more likely to die in childbirth and why that is, and sort of like systematic inequities that are built, sort of baked in, and how health and society majors can help make a positive impact on society and change some of those disturbing trends. So a lot of social justice coursework related to the healthcare system in the US and also abroad. So that one's, got some really fascinating courses. To tell you a little bit more about health professions, I would say that we actually did a panel in the spring. It was liberal arts and medicine, and we hosted 4 different MDs and PhDs from liberal arts who were working in the medical field, and they were talking about how they were better doctors because of their liberal arts degree, because they had that emotional intelligence, that bedside manner, because they understood where people were coming from and were able to really communicate with their patients. So definitely don't feel like you have to go the science route if you want to go the pre-vet route, the pre-med route, etc. And then when it comes to pre-law, yes, Gabriella, pre-law is not a major in the college. There is no pre-law major at UT, and that's actually a good thing. So I was the pre-law advisor at UT for a number of years, and so I got to know a lot of different law school admissions deans. And what they continuously conveyed to me was that they didn't want UT to have a pre-law major, or really most colleges have a pre-law major, because their idea for preparing you for law school is to have a broad-based education, very similar to what we have in liberal arts, where you're really working on your critical thinking skills and your writing skills. And then you can really go to law school with any major. Law schools are going to be concerned about your GPA and concerned about your LSAT scores, but they're not going to say, oh, you didn't major in government, so you can't be a lawyer. That being said, government history and English are all very popular majors for our pre-law students, but you certainly don't have to go that route. We have about 800 pre-law students each year at UT, and our pre-law program helps you think about how to be a competitive applicant, what you should be doing now, your first year, your second year of college, to prepare for law school in the future. And we also have a lot of events where we partner with law schools that you're interested in attending. In fact, Yale just emailed us yesterday and said, we want to come back to campus to recruit UT students this fall. We want to recruit in person. So there are a lot of law schools that are very excited about UT undergraduates and recruiting you all. More about my office, Liberal Arts Career Services. So we really want to help you wherever you want to go. So whether you want to go to grad school, med school, law school, straight into the workforce, whether you want to work for a nonprofit, a business, a government organization, we're here to help you get from point A to point B, and to try to make that process as unintimidating as possible, to be really approachable. We have a whole team of career coaches who can really help you come up with a career management plan. And then we also have a recruiting team that has a lot of career fairs and employer info sessions. And we also have a job and an internship board as well.
All right, so a few more slides to go. Here we wanted to highlight some of those specific skills, and then also where do our recent graduates tend to go. So we know that, and Ted, if you can back me up here, that your major doesn't always equal your career, right? So, and you just heard, case in point with pre-law and pre-health, your major doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't tell you where you are going to seek employment. But what we do like to emphasize are those skills that are important to employers, and what are they seeking in recent college graduates. And so we pulled these skills from, you can see, this is from a few years ago. And for the most part, though, these skills are always, year in and year out, these skills are always listed somewhere in the top 5. Top 6. And so in a survey, what this represents is a proportion of employers that rate each skill as very important for recent college graduates to have. So, thinking about, oral communication, written communication, working effectively with others, so collaboration, ethical judgment and decision-making, critical thinking. A lot of these skills you will develop not only through the curriculum, so through your degree program, but also through many of those co-curricular opportunities that we talked about. like leadership, undergraduate research, internships. So the important thing is, how do you then articulate that, right, onto your resume, talk about it in an interview, whether that's for a grad school or for an internship or for full-time employment. And that's what, our liberal arts career services team is here to do, is to help you and coach you through, like, how do you make meaning and make sense of everything that you're learning in the classroom and out of the classroom, so you can be as competitive as possible for whatever your next step is after graduation.
And Scott, you're exactly right about major doesn't equal career. Just because you major in sociology doesn't mean you become a sociologist. It might just mean that you are absolutely fascinated by all the sociology coursework, and what you want to do is something entirely different. As long as you have those skills that employers are seeking and some relevant experience, most employers are not looking for a specific major, they're looking for skills. So I believe it's about 88% of employers have told us that they're not seeking a specific major. Those that are tend to be like, okay, well, if you want to go into engineering, you need to have an engineering degree. If you want to go into nursing, you need to have a nursing degree. Same with architecture. But most of the other industries, especially when it comes to business, government, and nonprofits, they're not tied to a specific major that you need to have. So don't be afraid to take the courses that you're really excited about. When it comes to where do our graduates go, this is actually some material. Scott made the very nice graphs for us, so shout out to him for that. But our most recent first destination survey of our recent grads indicated that, as you can see, some went into education, but certainly not all. It was about 15% went into education. I think one misconception is people think, oh, if you major in history, your only option is to be a history teacher. But actually, we have a lot of history majors who go on to work in business, right? So we have a lot of students that go work in computer science, almost as many as end up working in education. So when it comes to what you want to be doing next, try not to limit yourself in terms of thinking that major has to equal career.
And when you reminded me of the panel with the physicians earlier in the year, it also reminded me of another COLA alum who is a chief revenue officer for a major airline industry, and he got his degree in COLA, went on to get a master's, an MBA. And you would think that with an MBA, when asked, what degree was the most important to him, you would think, well, the MBA, because chief revenue officer for airline industry. And he said, no, it was my liberal arts degree. So being able to tell a story and to connect with, with an audience, and being able to empathize with, a team and travelers. And so it was just really fascinating to me to hear how much, with so much pride, that he was able to talk about his liberal arts degree and how he really attributes that education for the reason of his success and what he uses in his day-to-day employment.
So I just dropped that in the chat, Scott, because I have a little snippet of our interview with Vasu that we did a little less than a year ago, and he loves to recruit liberal arts majors at American Airlines, especially for their revenue management team. So yeah, if you get a chance, that's a really fun clip and not too long.
Cool. Yeah, and then the other part of our where do our grads go? So for those recent graduates about a year out who indicated that they went on to a graduate or professional school, about 35% of those respondents went on to pursue a law degree. Close to 30% pursued some sort of Master's of Arts or Master's of Sciences degree, and a little over 10% pursued a medical degree. And then where do they live, right? So over 70% still stay in the state of Texas. Then the next most common state is New York, and then 4% in California. You might have heard that UT has a New York program and also an LA program. Tatum and I work closely with our UT New York City, our UT NY partners, which is an internship program where students will go live in New York City. They are expected to have an internship, and they take 12 credit hours of UT coursework. So we have faculty in New York City. And then every weekend there's some sort of excursion with the cohort. So this summer we have around 10 COLA students in New York City. I think they're winding down their term there in the next week. And then we have another cohort of students going in the fall. And then we just reviewed applications for the spring of 2022. And we do have, our college is now able to offer scholarships to help offset some of the program cost for New York's, for UT-NY. So something to think about as well. If you don't want to get the study abroad experience, but you do want to study away, you can think domestically in another state. Yeah, and then we also wanted to just throw this slide in here as well, because there are many ways to stay connected to COLA. So we are glad you joined us for this information session. We know it can be a lot, but it also doesn't tell the full story, right? There's a lot that, with 40 degree programs and so many academic departments, there's a lot, there are many ways to get a feel of like, what is COLA all about? What is our environment like? The Office of Student Success just started the Sounds of Success podcast. So if you are into podcasts and you're looking for something to listen to, you might want to check them out. And then we have YouTube channels with videos of events that have happened over the past year and beyond. And just a lot, many rabbit holes to go down that reflect our academic offerings.
Yeah, the Office of Student Success had a great podcast. That's their Sounds of Success podcast. And they had a great episode about what to do to sort of get engaged at UT once you start. That would be a good one to listen to even now, I think.
Yeah. So I know we dropped a few links into the chat, but we also wanted to curate a list of links for you on topics, some of the more popular topics that we covered in this presentation. So you're welcome to scan this QR code, and with more information, I saw Tatum left her email in the chat. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. But that is the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. We have about 10 minutes, so we'll hang around. And of course, if you don't have anything else, thank you for joining us.
Jasmine, your most competitive majors. Actually, psychology is definitely one of the most competitive.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that we didn't talk about one of our other new majors, HDO. Which is a great one for it's human dimensions of organizations. It's sort of like the liberal arts side of business, which is a really fun one too.
Would you say that's kind of like organizational psychology?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually it's led by Art Markman, who is a pretty famous psychologist. He's been on Oprah and that sort of thing, and he leads that program.
Yeah. Two Guys on Your Head is another good podcast that
Yes.
Art Markman, Dr. Art Markman, and his colleague produced.
Yes, that's a podcast on KUT. That's really fun too. Can I explain more about HDO? Yes. So that one, it started out as a master's program, and the undergraduate program has probably been around about 4 years now. And so they teach a lot of courses related to using liberal arts skills to solve business and human related problems, right? So maybe like a problem with like motivation in your workers, or so right now, for example, there's this huge sort of exodus of people quitting because they liked working at home and they don't want to go back in person. And so HDO studies things like, how do you keep your team cohesive while you're telecommuting? Or how do you bring the team back together and keep things equitable when some people might be working from home and others aren't? So just really fascinating things about the human side of business, and how it's not all just about making money, but it's also about keeping your employees engaged and building strong teams. Let's see, what are the gen ed requirements for a liberal arts degree in terms of math? Yeah, it is dependent on the major, Morgan. So for example, economics requires calculus. I will tell you that I was a liberal arts major and math is not my strong suit. And I ended up taking something called Introduction to Math, which my husband still teases me about. But it was actually a pretty good course. Yeah, so it depends on what you're majoring in specifically. Some of us are into math and some of us are not within the College of Liberal Arts. It varies a lot.
And Christy, I would recommend following up with our admissions staff. I think they have ownership of the recording, and I don't know how the Office of Admissions is going to share this.
So Sheldon, Plan 2 itself is a major. So you would put Plan 2 down as one of your 3 majors that you're interested in pursuing. But yes, the others, one of them could be just undeclared liberal arts. You wouldn't have to choose.
Yeah. There's so many avenues to pursue honors, right? You have the Plan 2, which you have to be admitted right away, but then there are other ways. You know, each department has their own honors attributions as well. So lots of ways to get honors status. But I think that's the biggest takeaway of today, in my opinion, is Plan 2, you have to be admitted to the university as a Plan 2 honor student. And if you're not, that's not the end. You can still get honors designation, but maybe just through a different avenue. So.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Jessica.
Other questions?
Okay. Well, I'll continue to hang out for a few more minutes. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Tatum, for joining me. I wish I could have you all the time during all the presentations. Lots of good information. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and best wishes as you go into your final year of high school.
Yeah, we hope to see you all in a year on campus. Let's see. Gabriella says, uh-oh.
Yeah. Yes, I
don't want to lose her question.
There's an area in the application to list your majors of interest. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the application looks like, but I know there's space for you to select your majors of interest.
Mm-hmm. Should there be a specific order?
Yeah. Does it go major 1, major 2?
I believe so, and Jessica may want to chime in here, but my understanding is you'd want to put your top choice first.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's like a ranking. Yeah.
Jessica says yes.
Ooh, we got that right. Okay.
So put Plan 2 at the very top if that's what you're most excited about. Yeah. In terms of like hedging your bets or whatever.
Oh, good.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
We love COLA. Our students are so excited and enthusiastic, and they just love learning for learning's sake, and we love that. Do you know if there's a study abroad program that goes to Japan? Yes, there is. In fact, there's actually several, and there are some programs where you can teach English in Japan for a couple of years after graduation too, that are also very popular. So if you want to go to that, I can find that link again, but there's a database where you can go in and say, okay, let's find all the programs in Japan. Keep in mind, some of that stuff is probably not 100% active right now because of COVID, but by the time you're on campus, yes, by all means, include going to Japan as part of your 4 years at UT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious to see just how many programs are in Japan, because I've had several students study abroad in Japan.
Anything else?
Oh, you missed your trip. Yeah, so many people missed out. So I hope you get to make that time back up while you're in college.
Emma or Christy, do you have any other questions? No.
Thanks for your help, Jessica.
Thank y'all for a great presentation. I learned a lot about COLA as well that I'll be able to use in our admission cycle. So thank y'all for the good information.
Great. Happy to help. Take
Yeah.
care.